We are talking Bloodthirsty. This is a werewolf movie directed by Amelia Moses and stars Lauren Beatty, with a small appearance from Michael Ironside. Now, this is a werewolf movie, yes, but it is more of a drama than an out-and-out horror film, I would say. What's the story? Well, we have this young woman who is a kind of rock singer, like an indie kind of rock singer, and she's had one album out which it sounds like it's been relatively successful, and she's invited to spend some time in this kind of out of the way rural area by this reclusive music producer. So her and her kind of girlfriend decide to go, you know, they're going to accept this and go to this guy's, you know, lavish house and stuff and record a new album. And this guy seems rather eccentric, but he seems to be bringing out her bestial side. She's having these kind of hallucinations anyway about kind of turning into an animal. And that's kind of all I'll say about the plot, because I'll be honest with you, the plot of this one is relatively scant. But let's talk about, first of all, what works in this movie. I think this is a well-made film in regards to, it is kind of beautifully shot in a way and feels kind of ethereal and dreamlike in some aspects, I would say. And this kind of goes in well with the theme of what this woman is going through, this young woman having kind of these hallucinations, these dreams. She doesn't quite know what's reality, and she's having these kind of like taking these pills and stuff to try and stop that. And it kind of, I feel the movie on a kind of thematic level kind of plays into that, I think, and I think that's good filmmaking. I'd also add that I think the acting here is very, very good, with all of our cast doing a good job. Well, I think some of the writing is a little poor, but a good job with the roles that they have been given. And, you know, I think that the characters are interesting enough to keep you engaged throughout the movie. I feel like the character motivations are a little bit wonky. We'll come on to it, but nonetheless, I think the acting is pretty solid. The effects work in regards to the werewolf side of things is minimal. It's remarkably similar to another werewolf movie I've reviewed, probably within the last year, called I Am Lisa, and the kind of the aesthetics of the werewolf, it's almost identical to this movie. I was even kind of thinking, is this the same people that have made it? Because the werewolf looks exactly the same. And even the kind of the poster art kind of reminds me of that film. The story is completely different. And the I Am Lisa was kind of quite cheesy. This is certainly more adult and kind of serious, but maybe not as interesting, I'll admit. But nonetheless, the werewolf makeup is, I think, might be a little divisive, because they never really go full on werewolf. It's kind of like, you know, big eyes, a little bit of hair, sharp teeth and stuff, but never a full-on transformation. I don't necessarily think you need to have that for a werewolf movie, but I think some people will be somewhat a little bit disappointed. But I kind of still like the fact that you have a kind of degree of humanity within these kind of werewolves. In this particular film, it plays like it's a bestial side of someone rather than being a complete kind of like beast itself. I feel the movie also is trying to, you know, have comparisons about how the entertainment industry is a bloodthirsty game. Obviously, this woman kind of being a singer, and how ultimately people have to sacrifice their principles and kind of do things maybe that they don't want to do in a bloodthirsty world. And we have all seen kind of like stories in the last few years of the kind of the underbelly of the entertainment industry and things like that. Although this movie doesn't go over the top with it, I do think there's that element there that has a little bit of kind of commentary on that. Maybe what doesn't work. The story, like I've said, is relatively slight. And there is a kind of a twist towards the end, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I think it's relatively obvious, or you see something like that is going to happen. I was surprised about the lack of actual bloodthirsty in this, is the best way I would describe it. This movie is quite kind of like subdued in its violence. There's not a lot of kind of violent behaviour in this. You get kind of really, you know, a minimal amount of action. Let me just put it like that, of bloodletting. A minimal amount, considering this is kind of a werewolf movie. I've mentioned I think the acting is good, but I got to be honest with you, I think the writing isn't quite up to scratch here, because we have this guy as a music producer, and he seems like a little weird. Well, when I say a little weird, I mean a lot weird. He seems like a complete lunatic, if you excuse the pun there. But it's just like, surely anyone with an ounce of sense will be like, this guy is not on the level. And I know it's kind of my career. It's on the kind of, you know, this is, you know, maybe the kind of the defining characteristics of my career, because he's a music producer and I'm a music artist. But nonetheless, it was kind of like, surely you kind of, as a protagonist, you kind of recognise that there's some weird stuff going on there, and this guy is acting like so bizarre. It's just a little bit over the top and silly. And because I think this girl goes along with it, it kind of makes her somewhat unlikable, because you feel she's a little stupid. So we're meant to kind of go on this journey with our main character, and she just seems to be so easily manipulated by such obvious manipulations. You're thinking, man, I don't know if I can buy this character, or I can get invested, because it just seems so stupid and kind of like just goes along with everything without kind of really ever questioning it. You know, even when the people closest to her are telling her otherwise, it was just a little silly, I gotta be honest with you. And although I like the acting, the guy who kind of plays this music producer, I think he does a good job with the role that he's given, because again, it's just a little bit silly and a little bit over the top. There are things that don't seem particularly well explained. There's a kind of like a female employee that this guy has, and we don't really know what the situation with it's there. There's also a huge convenience. Again, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but there just seems to be like, that is such a massive, it's to do with their careers, let me just put it like this, and their kind of the relationship that they have. Thinking, come on, that is just like such a massive coincidence. So I've got to be honest with you, I think the writing here isn't great. And when it's all said and done, the movie kind of ends on a little bit of a damp squib, I've got to be honest with you. It kind of ends on somewhat of a disappointing note. So overall, I think this movie has some very good artistic properties, and I think the movie is well made in the fact that I think this is a well shot and acted film with some directorial flourishes, but the narrative just isn't particularly interesting or particularly realistic or believable. So it kind of falls down on some kind of major levels, if you ask me, even though I think there is some good stuff here, and I think you can enjoy it on somewhat of a surface level, which I don't think the movie really wants to do, but there it is. It's a 5 out of 10, an average movie for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.